Welcome back to The Explainer. If you watch crime dramas or read mystery novels, you've probably got this very specific, action-packed picture in your head of how detectives solve crimes. But how does it actually play out in the real world, under the strict letter of the law? Today, we are demystifying the real police investigation process under the Criminal Procedure Code, or CrPC. We're going to strip away all that Hollywood fiction and look at the actual step-by-step legal machinery that turns a chaotic crime scene into a closed case.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the anatomy of an investigation, move into step 1, which is filing the FIR, explore the crime scene and evidence, understand police powers versus their legal limits, and finally, look at the final report.
So let's jump right into part 1, anatomy of an investigation, uncovering the truth. It begs a really fundamental question right out of the gate. What is the actual purpose of a police investigation? If you're picturing dramatic courtroom confessions or detectives deciding who is guilty on the spot, the legal reality is vastly different. Legally speaking, an investigation is strictly a fact-finding mission. It's simply the process of collecting facts and evidence about the commission of an offense to find out the truth. Who did it? How did they do it? When, where, and why? That is literally it. It is so crucial to remember that an investigation is not a trial. The police aren't there to judge. Their only goal is to gather enough solid proof to actually present to a court. And the complete legal roadmap for this follows a highly rigid flowchart. It kicks off on the far left with receiving the FIR, moves through visiting the scene, collecting that evidence, examining witnesses, potentially arresting the accused, and it wraps up with the final report, or challan. Every single thing a police officer does has to fit precisely onto this legal timeline. No exceptions. Moving on to part 2, step 1, filing the FIR, where the case actually begins. To make this super concrete, we're going to follow a hypothetical true crime scenario right from the initial report all the way to the courtroom file. Imagine this. Person A is found dead in his house. The stakes literally couldn't be higher. We're looking at a suspected murder, which falls squarely under Section 302 of the Penal Code. So how do the authorities legally begin looking into this? Well, it brings up a pretty interesting procedural question for you. Under which specific section of the Criminal Procedure Code do the police actually get the power to investigate a serious, cognizable offense like a suspected murder? The magic number here is Section 156. This is the specific statute that empowers a police officer to investigate a cognizable case without needing a magistrate's order first. But here's the thing, this power doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It activates immediately after the very first step, logging the first information report, the FIR, under Section 154. The second that FIR is officially in the register, Section 156 basically gives the police the green light to hit the gas. All right, part 3, the crime scene and evidence, gathering the pieces. Once that FIR is locked in, the investigating officer has to follow a really strict chronological sequence. Step 1, they visit the scene of the crime to prep a rough sketch and note the key facts. Step 2, they systematically collect, seize, and seal evidence. Step 3, they examine witnesses, basically anyone acquainted with the facts of the case. And step 4, if the evidence is sufficient, and only if it's sufficient, they arrest the accused. Now, the law strictly categorizes what actually counts as evidence. Investigators are hunting for 4 distinct types. You've got physical evidence, like weapons or fingerprints, documentary evidence, meaning records or call logs, oral evidence, which are the witness statements, and finally, electronic evidence. Think mobile data, emails, or CCTV footage. To build a solid case, you need a methodical collection across all of these categories. Let's pull this right back to our case study where person A was found dead. The police arrive at the house. Following protocol, they find and bag blood-stained clothes. Boom, physical evidence. They pull the neighborhood CCTV footage. There's your electronic evidence. And they start knocking on doors to get statements from the neighbors, which becomes our oral evidence. Speaking of knocking on doors, that brings up another vital piece of this procedural puzzle. When statements from witnesses, like those neighbors, are taken, under which specific section of the CrPC are they officially recorded? That would be Section 161. This is the procedural law governing how a police officer formally examines someone who knows the facts. It effectively turns a neighbor's casual observation into the official oral evidence we just talked about. The officer is legally bound to record these statements accurately because they form the absolute bedrock of the prosecution's case later on. Which leads us to part 4, police powers and legal limits, the ultimate balancing act. Look, on one hand, the investigating officer has immense power. For these serious offenses, they can arrest without a warrant. They can search property, seize articles under Section 165, and even compel medical exams. In our case, if evidence points to a neighbor, let's call him Suspect B, the police can arrest him immediately. But balancing out these powers are some incredibly strict limitations. The police absolutely cannot force the accused to confess. They must conduct a fair and impartial investigation without unnecessary delay. A false investigation isn't just a mistake, guys. It's a literal criminal offense in itself. The whole system rests on this delicate balance between empowering law enforcement and protecting individual liberties. And this brings us to a massive legal safeguard that honestly surprises a lot of people. Which section dictates that statements made to the police are actually not considered substantive evidence in court? It's Section 162. This is such a fascinating piece of legal protection. Under 162, statements made to the police during the investigation are not signed by the person making them. Why? Well, because the law recognizes the inherent power imbalance there. It ensures police can't use coercive tactics to force a confession and then just hand a signed piece of paper to the judge. No way. The witness has to actually testify in court later on, under oath.
Finally, Part 5, the final report, closing the file. As we reach the culmination of this whole investigation timeline, there is one final procedural hurdle. The final report that wraps up the police's work is submitted to the court under which section? That would be Section 173. Submitting this report, widely known as the Challan, marks the official end of the police's primary job. They compile everything they've got, the facts, the physical and electronic evidence, the witness lists, whether an offense actually appears to have been committed, and who they think did it, and they hand that completely finalized file straight over to the magistrate. So, to wrap up our hypothetical case of Person A, the police have successfully arrested Suspect B based on solid evidence. They've recovered the suspected murder weapon and sent it off to the forensic lab. And finally, they've submitted the Challan to the court. The police investigation is now technically closed, and the stage is perfectly set for the actual trial to kick off. I want to leave you with this powerful golden rule from our source material today. Investigation is the backbone of every criminal case. Good investigation leads to justice. Bad or false investigation leads to failure of justice. It just perfectly summarizes exactly why these strict procedures exist in the first place. If the police break the rules, skip a step, or act outside their limits, the entire backbone of the case snaps, and justice fails. It is a massive responsibility. So, what part of the investigation process surprised you the most today? Definitely think about that the next time you see a crime unfold on your TV screen. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.